going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I'm filming in our home office today. Got kind of a makeshift studio. We got some new lights, filming on the Canon 70D, and we put the 50mm lens on this time. So hopefully, if you look in the background there, it's got that blurred out kind of bokeh effect. Well, I, like many of you over the past week, have just been trying to process the untimely death of Kobe Bryant, his beautiful daughter Gianna, and the 7 other passengers in that helicopter crash. And what's become crystal clear to me throughout the week is that you do not have to be a sports fan to appreciate Kobe Bryant and his approach to the game of basketball, life, his relentless approach to just elevate himself, his game, his mentality, and never quitting and never settling. And all of that kind of bundled into this notion of the Mamba mentality. I think all of us on some level can relate to the Mamba mentality, can certainly appreciate it. And I can tell you, I've had the Mamba mentality since probably at least the 10th grade. And I'll touch on that in a minute. But what's most important here is to understand that the Mamba mentality is different for everyone, but the underlying kind of message is never quit, never give up on yourself, work harder than everyone else, and if you do those things, chances are you'll get to that end goal. So let's go back to about the 10th grade for me. At that time, I was still living at home, obviously, and we grew up poor. We grew up in the south end of Seattle, low income. We were on food stamps, had the government cheese, all of it, right? And as a young child, it was just our way of living. But as I started getting older, I started to see how other people were living. Now, we lived in a 2-bedroom home and there were 6 of us. So I never had my own bedroom. We did not have a shower. We only had a bathtub. And needless to say, it was very crowded. And so by the 10th grade, I made a decision to move out of our home. And how did I do that? Well, I had to work 3 jobs. So very early on, I figured out the only way to kind of get ahead in life is to work hard, to outwork everybody around me, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to progress in life. And so working those 3 jobs, I was actually able to move out of our home. A good friend of ours lived in a house, and it just so happened that his parents owned the adjacent home, and they agreed to rent a room in that house to me. My brother and 2 other friends also moved into the house. So made it that way all the way through the end of high school, graduated, and shortly after graduating, I moved from Washington to California, met my beautiful wife, and then we got pregnant with our first daughter, Alexis. And so right then and there, I figured, I got to apply the Mamba mentality again. I got to raise my game. I got to elevate my game and continue to work hard. So I decided to go to college. 8.5 years in college. That's what it took me to get my bachelor's degree. And during that time, I had to work full time, right? So say working, 8 to 5 or 6 and then going to class from 7 to 10, coming home and doing homework and whatever assignment was due the following day. That lasted 8.5 years. Got my bachelor's degree, and I certainly could have settled there, but during that 8.5 year period, we got pregnant with our second daughter, Isabella. And so, not settling after the 8.5 years, I decided to go to law school, which took another 4 years, okay? So 12.5 years of my life was this schedule of full-time work, going to school immediately after work, and law school obviously required a lot of reading, a lot of writing, so there were plenty of times when I was up until 2, 3 in the morning, getting maybe 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and then doing the whole thing over and over again. And what I realized during that 12-and-a-half-year period is that if you utilize all 24 hours that are given to us in each day, you can accomplish some amazing things in life. Really, whatever you set your mind to. And it's kind of the same thing with the Mamba mentality, right? Elevate yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Never quit. Outwork everybody. And my additional piece is use all 24 hours in your day. And so that mentality has stayed with me ever since. I still work full-time, and in order to prepare and train for fitness-related events like marathons or triathlons or physique competitions, it takes a lot of time, a lot of discipline, and a lot of effort, and a lot of work. And that's where the Mamba mentality always, comes through for me, because I utilize all 24 hours in my day and I put in the work. Now, the best example I can probably give you on how this Mamba mentality has helped me in training for a fitness-related event is probably my preparation for Ironman Arizona. So I signed up for the Ironman Arizona race on a whim. Two very close friends of mine, Tracy and Sue, said, "Hey Ed, we think you'd be great at an Ironman race. You'd do really well." Now mind you, I have never raced a triathlon. Sprint, Olympic, half, or full. I'd never done a triathlon up until that point. But I said, what the hell? If you think I can do it, I'm going to do it. So I signed up. The way I was able to get my entry was through a charity raise, meaning I joined a charity, Smile Train, and Smile Train provides surgeries across the world for children with cleft palate, and I had to raise $3,500 in connection with my entry. So what happened is that whole process, right, of telling people I'm racing, I'm signed up with the charity, setting up the web page for Smile Train, and just contacting everyone through emails, text, whatever was necessary. That consumed a lot of my time up front. After all that was settled though, I had to realize and come to the realization that I have to train for this race. I got 11 months. So what I did is I kind of said, okay, let's look at the 3 disciplines: swimming, biking, and running. For those of you that are not familiar with a triathlon format, a full distance triathlon that is, the first thing you have to do is swim 2.4 miles in open water. Then you have to get on a bike and ride it for 112 miles. And then you have to get off your bike and run a full marathon, which is 26.2 miles. And it all has to be done in 17 hours. Now, each one of the disciplines also has a cutoff. The swim, I believe, you have to get out of the water in 2 hours and 20 minutes. Now, mind you, if you don't make it out of the water in that cutoff time, your race is over, okay? You cannot continue on. If you make it out of the water and get on your bike, you have to be off the bike, I believe, in another 8 hours. Same thing there. If you don't make it off the bike in time, your race is over. If you're one of the fortunate ones to make it through the bike leg and start running, you have to complete everything or the run, in under 17 hours or right at the 17-hour mark to finish the race. So I said, okay, let's look at these 3 disciplines. Running. I've run marathons before. Now, mind you, I've never run a marathon after swimming 2.4 miles or biking 112 miles, but I figured if I got onto dry land, I could get the legs moving and finish the marathon. Biking. Hadn't been on a bike for about 20 years, but I rode bikes religiously as a kid. Dirt bikes, road bikes, 10 speeds, you name it, I was on it. So again, I figured if I could make it onto dry land, I could finish the bike leg in the required time. Swimming. Well, I thought I could swim until Tracy, who was coaching me, said, okay, meet me at the gym. Let's get in an Olympic pool. Let me see you swim just one length of the pool. I got in, couldn't even make it halfway. Hips sinking, arms flailing all over the place, couldn't breathe. And she said, Ed, you don't know how to swim. We've got a lot of work to do. And so from that point, I realized I had to call upon the Mamba mentality, right? I can't even tell you how many YouTube videos I watched, how many articles I read, how many people I talked to about proper swim technique, and I became completely consumed with how to swim. And so with the help of Tracy, others, I just started showing up to the pool every day to swim. And what I did that was different though, is I would show up at 3:30 in the morning. And the reason is I discovered at 24 Hour Fitness in Walnut Creek where I was swimming, that they clean the pool at 3 o'clock, they clean the pool deck, so everything is crystal clean at 3:30, and there's no one there. And that's when I started showing up every day at 3:30. I would swim for like an hour, hour and a half, come home, get ready, and go to work. After a couple of months of doing that, I actually kind of started figuring out how to swim. I then signed up for a class called Total Immersion Swimming, which really revolutionized my swim technique. I'll throw a link to Total Immersion down in the description below. And so that helped me progress even further. But then I realized, you know, the Ironman race, I'm not going to be swimming in a nice warm pool. I'm not going to be able to see the bottom, and I'm not going to have that black line that's at the bottom of every pool that tells you how to, you know, and keeps you going in a straight line. So I said, I got to start practicing in open water. So what did I do? I hired an open water swim coach. His name was Warren. He owns a company named Odyssey Open Water Swimming here in the Bay Area. And at that time, it was a pretty small operation. He's now become very successful. It's a much bigger operation, and he's doing fantastic. So Warren and I would meet at the Berkeley Marina and swim in the San Francisco Bay. Him in a kayak and just me. So we started meeting every Saturday, and we would go out on these open water swims. And I gotta tell you, it was terrifying. I was nervous, all of the above. But after doing it over and over again, not quitting, not giving up on myself, and believing in myself, I slowly but surely got comfortable doing it. And so after months of doing that, I finally told Warren, hey, I gotta know that I can cover 2.4 miles. So please set up a course for me where I can do it. And it was our very last swim together. And the course basically stretched from Berkeley to Emeryville and back. And so we meet. The weather conditions are not great on this day. It's raining, the waves are going like crazy, but I said, I gotta do it. So the first part of the swim from Berkeley to Emeryville actually went pretty well. When I got to Emeryville, I, for some reason, thought my swim was over, but it wasn't. It was only half over. So Warren said, hey Ed, are you ready to go back? And I kind of had to get myself in the right mindset, and I said, well, yeah, I am ready, let's go. I start swimming and have an unbelievably terrible swim. I'm going in circles, I'm just kind of flailing all over the place, and Warren comes up to me in the kayak and says, you know, hey Ed, how you doing? And I said, Warren, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. And he said, well, hold on, are you cramping up? And I said, no. He said, are you feeling nauseous? And I said, no. And he goes, well then, it's all in your mind. So I'm going to take off, I'm going to start heading back to the marina, you know, follow. And he took off. And at that point I said, Mamba mentality. Can't give up on myself again, right? I won't give up. I'm gonna make it. I gotta believe in myself. And I started to swim. And I swam and continued swimming and made it back to the marina. And Warren was smiling, I was smiling, and he said, you know, Ed, I could have towed you back, but aren't you glad I didn't? And I said, oh, Warren, thank you for not towing me back. And by the way, what was my time? And he said, well, Ed, with the stop and, you know, it was kind of a rough swim coming back, it was a little over 3 hours. And I said, geez, I covered the distance, but I didn't do it in the required amount of time. So I just had to hang my hat on the fact that I covered the distance, and hopefully on race day, I'll be able to do it in the required amount of time. So fast forward to race weekend. The day before the Ironman race, they allow you to get in the water, go for a test swim, and that's exactly what I did. Put on my wetsuit, got in, had a terrible swim. I started swimming around in circles again. And the only way I knew is because my coach and some friends that were there said, hey, we noticed you were kind of swimming around in circles. And I played it off saying, I was just goofing off. I just wanted to check things out and I'm fine. Deep down inside though, I had this unbelievable fear that I was not going to be able to complete the swim leg the following day. So fast forward to race morning. I get my wetsuit on and I have a complete emotional breakdown. I'm crying, I'm sobbing, I'm just terrified that all of these people have come to support me and I'm not even going to be able to finish the swim leg. And my family and coach said, hey, you've put in the work, just go out there and do your best. And I said, you know what? I have put in the work. I've applied the Mamba mentality. I'm not going to quit on myself. I'm going to go out there and leave it all out on that swim course, swim my heart out. And that's exactly what I did. And I actually had a really good swim. I believe I finished right around an hour and 45 minutes, moved on to the bike leg, got off the bike in time, started the run, and I finished the whole race in 15 hours, 23 minutes, and 40 seconds. I think that was my finish time. So the Mamba mentality really held up during that process. And what I want to convey to you is that if you apply the Mamba mentality, my feeling is you will be successful in whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. But even more importantly, never confuse success with failure when you've applied the Mamba mentality. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's just assume on race day at Ironman Arizona, I got in the water and I wasn't able to complete the swim. It happens all the time. You've prepared and on race day it just doesn't go your way. Well, to me, that's a success. That's not failure. And it's a success because I've made it there, I've put in the work, I'm in the water, and I'm going for it. And if it just doesn't happen that day, it's not in the cards for me to finish, that's okay. That's a success. Failure is when you quit the process, when you quit during the preparation to get to that point, because you've quit on yourself, right? No one else. You've quit on yourself. And to me, that is what failure is. So the message is never quit on yourself. The Mamba mentality will mean different things to different people. But for me, it really is working harder than everyone else, never quitting on yourself, raising and elevating your levels spiritually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And if you do all those things, my feeling is you'll always achieve your goal and you'll probably exceed your goal. So I hope you can apply the Mamba mentality to whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. And if you do, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below, or if you have in the past. And if you want to add anything to this, leave it in the comments as well. Again, this is a channel to help others that are just trying to achieve their very best version of themselves. It's about all I've got for this episode. I really appreciate you tuning in. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll know every time I upload a new video. Keep applying that Mamba mentality. I certainly will moving forward. And again, rest in peace to Kobe, Gianna, and the 7 others that perished in that just tragic helicopter accident. With that, I will leave you with be well, be kind to yourself and others, and most importantly, believe in yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.